pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming tonight. Let's start with some recognitions, presentations.
I'd like to begin by bringing up Mr. Baldo. So Mr. Baldo, if you could join us, that would be great.
Good evening.
Good evening, thank
Sorry,
you.
Bob, just hold on for a second. All of a sudden, I've gone dead here. Unfortunately.
Technology.
Yeah. It just must be one of those nights. We've all been running into some problems.
Hey, you wanna?
I'm not. No, I have the. I'm not. I'm just not. None of my links are working. See if I can get to it a different way.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Me too.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Been seeing you a lot of meetings about the new school. You getting excited?
Oh, I've been excited for 2 years. I've been excited for 8, but we're down to the final couple of months.
Yeah. It's getting
Yeah.
close. It's gonna be nice to see it all come together.
Yes, it
All right,
will.
sorry about that. So I guess we'll switch. Mr. Cattery and I got to switch for a couple minutes. Okay. If his links are working, mine not.
Well, that's how you solved it. Switch
I'll work on
laptops.
it for you. So, Mr. Baldo's here this evening because he's going to be recognized, or is being recognized, as Beyond Benign's Green Chemistry Lead Teacher Program. It's a program which he applied for, but then was selected from a large variety of applicants. And I think it's an outstanding program that's going to give him some great opportunities. So, being a member of the program, it's going to allow him to attend a 3-day summit at the Beyond Benign headquarters in Wilmington, Mass. This summer. It's going to participate in monthly virtual cohort meetings where he has the opportunity to collaborate, learn, and share and reflect with a team of teachers. He's going to be able to create some curriculum resources, including new labs, refinement in science lessons, and integration of STEM connections. And so just some curriculum development pieces. And then also deliver professional development both locally and regionally. So this is an outstanding accomplishment by Mr. Baldo, and we're excited that he is going to be a green chemistry lead teacher within the program next year. So Bob, I don't know if you want to talk about the program a little bit and give us a little more background and what you're really looking forward to, because it's a 3-year program, 3-year commitment in which Bob's going to be a lead teacher in.
Yes. Beyond Benign's a nonprofit organization, and their focus has been for years green chemistry at the high school and middle school levels. Nationally, I'm currently the first and only elementary school lead teacher that they've brought on board, because we're developing now elementary curriculum, and they understand that it's not going to be chemistry because we don't teach chemistry at the elementary school specifically. So I'm going to be focusing on sustainable science, and then connecting that to the green chemistry concepts at the upper level. It is a great commitment and a great opportunity. I'm excited that I was chosen to do this. And it's nice to work with teachers from all over the country and discuss science curriculum, what's going on, what's happening. And it's a great company, what I've learned so far, and then I'm going to spend my 3 days this summer at the summit and get to meet everybody else, because they all fly them in, and I'll get to see the lead teachers from all over the country. I've worked with a few and have had a great time. When I was down at the NSTA conference in Atlanta, I had the opportunity to work with a few and present some concepts. I've been at it over a year. I've already written an elementary, probably about 10 elementary lessons based on the idea of sustainable science, and they're being vetted now.
Who's going to have access to those lessons?
Everybody. That's free and available online. And that's how we're designing it, as well as materials in some cases. There's certain, like one material is called Sharklet, and it's available. All you have to do is call and ask, and you pay shipping. And that's it. And then the Beyond Benign will provide the Sharklet material that goes with the lesson that goes with that. And the other thing I'm going to look at, and I've started already, is looking at their high school and middle school lessons and how can I bring them down to an elementary concept minus a lot of the terminology. Because they're all, anything can go up or down. So I'm going to see if I can help bring some more chemistry into the elementary schools.
And I know throughout your career you've just been, obviously dedicated to the sciences. Beyond being a fifth grade teacher, I think there's been that real focus and desire to be an outstanding science teacher across the board. And we just appreciate, the committee appreciates your dedication to continual improvement.
Thank
Because
you.
ultimately, in my mind, recognition and being brought into this program is really about providing you the opportunities to continuously improve as a teacher and to have an impact on teachers really across the United States. So I think it's outstanding that you were accepted into the program, and we're excited for the opportunity for you, and I know you're excited about it as well.
I am, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
But Bob, I don't know if you want to stay for as part of Ava's recognition as well, but I don't know if there's any questions for Bob first. No?
Thank you very much.
All right, so we also have one student recognition this evening. So if we could invite Ava Harriman up, we'd love to have her come up. Ava? So Ava has been selected as the school representative and the school winner from Carver Elementary School for the Cambridge Science Festival Curiosity Challenge. There were over 3,900 entries that were received, and over 230 teachers and classrooms participated throughout Massachusetts. So it was a tremendous selection process. And we're excited that Ava's been selected as a winner, and she's going to be recognized, I believe, on Sunday, April 22nd at MIT for her recognition. And I know that this was part of a project I believe she did in Mr. Baldo's class. So Ava, if you want to tell us a little bit about the project, and Mr. Baldo, you can help out as well, and that would be great.
So everyone in our classroom was like assigned to make up a question that was their curiosity, and I chose does the length of a trampoline affect how high you jump? So once you had your question, you had to decide if you wanted to write an essay explaining your question or write a poem about your question. And I drew, which I explained, I drew two girls jumping on a trampoline. One had a smaller trampoline, and one had a bigger trampoline. And they were both at the same height because I haven't answered my question. So that was my curiosity.
So you have not answered your question yet?
No, not yet.
Is that part of the process?
Kind of, not really.
At the end. And Mr. Baldo, do you have anything to add in terms of your bringing your students to being involved in this project?
This began when I was up at the MAST conference, and I was talking to some people from MIT about this project. The end result is these are all being published in the 2018 Curiosity Challenge book that MIT puts out. So Ava's work will be now published. So she'll be recognized at MIT, and what they'll be doing is presenting all the winners or all the curiosities as part of the recognition day next Sunday, or a week from Sunday. And we'll be spending that day together, go up to MIT. So it started as, again, part of Beyond Benign. I was there. I got to talk to some people. I brought some good ideas back to the classroom, and we did something. And one of my students was lucky enough, or talented enough, not lucky, talented enough to be one of the chosen from the state. So
That's terrific.
yeah, it is.
So Ava, congratulations on being the selection for the Cambridge Science Festival Curiosity Challenge. I know you'll have a great recognition on the 22nd. Outstanding that you're going to be published, so your work will be out there for everybody to see, and you'll get an opportunity to take a look at everybody else's work. So we as the committee and myself as the superintendent, I just want to thank you for your dedication to your own education, because ultimately, a lot of education is about curiosity. Mm-hmm. It's about wondering about things and trying to solve problems. And ultimately, great contributors in the science and math and across the board, really, it comes from their own curiosity. So we want to thank you for your curiosity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So moving on to comments from the general public. Seeing nobody jumping to the mic, we'll move on to comments from EAPC. How you doing tonight?
Good. How about yourself?
Very good, thanks.
Evening. I'll be be brief. It seems it's April already. Can't believe that's happened. It's town meeting season for me. We just had one over in Plymouth, and I know we have Carver's town meeting coming up on the 24th. I know we feel there's a few articles in town meeting that might change some policies that could possibly free up some funds for for Carver schools when you're building your budget. So look forward to seeing you at town meeting and look forward to your support. Thank you.
Jenna, how are you?
And I think Jenna has a lot of exciting news for us tonight. So we'll be bringing back. Well, I'll talk about that afterwards. After she brings some of her exciting news forward to us.
Hello. So for our student council update, we had our first kindness week, and we started off with donuts and coffee on Monday for teachers, and throughout the week. Throughout the week, we had a kindness poster in our cafeteria where we had Post-it notes and markers out for students to write little positive notes on the wall. And if you needed a positive note, you can take one, or you can put one up. And that was it throughout the whole week. And we had designated lockers for freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors, and faculty. And people could put messages in the lockers, and at the end of the week, student council would deliver them to the person it was written to, obviously. So we did that, and it was really successful for our first one, so we were really proud of that. And then we had we had Spirit Week, and our winners for Spirit Week were Ann Lapsley and Matt Roberts for Mitch Match Monday. For Twin Tuesday, we had 7 dwarves, which they just aren't twins, but they tried really hard. They all dressed up as Sneezy, and it was super cute. So we had them, and
They looked like twins.
Oh yeah, they all look the same, so it counts. And then Taryn Minahan and Jared Robbins. For Cozy PJ Day, we had Brooke Meredith and Brandon Farquharson. And for salad dressing day, both as Caesar dressing, Jared Millman and Lila Murphy won. And we had most spirited from each class. The freshman class winner was Quentin Kittredge. The sophomore class winner was Luke Hallinan. The junior class winner was Holly Lazon. And the senior class winner was Casey Fernandez. And then we had our pep rally, where we had games like tug of war, family feud, and a balloon pop. So overall, that was all successful. But the most important news, 12 student council members attended our spring leadership conference at Duxbury High School. And Mr. Tresca had written, our student leaders earned top honors with the following. So our advisor, Mr. Tresca, received the I Believe in You John Jack Scanlon CMASC Advisor of the Year Award. Student Council President Sam Santos, who also served as the 2017-2018 Regional Vice President, was the recipient of the John Schrader Leadership Spirit Award for the CMASC region. Our Student Council Spirit Coordinator, it's me, Jenna Sweeney, I was elected as the 2018-2019 CMASC Webmaster, and Joshua Kennedy, a delegate, was selected as the 2018-2019 Publicity Coordinator for CMASC.
And so that's a lot of accomplishments for our student council group. Including you, Jenna, congratulations.
Thank you.
We'd like to bring back that entire group for our May meeting to do some school committee recognitions for their awards. I think that's outstanding that Mr. Tresca received Advisor of the Year. So there's just a lot of outstanding awards there, and our intention is to bring them back for the next school committee. We just didn't know about all these award winners until in a timely fashion to get everybody here for this meeting. But we'd love to have them back in May to recognize them.
Definitely. That's fantastic. So I'm going to do a little jump here and just move to this first communication for a minute, because before I do that, I'd just like to say, we start off our meetings a lot this way, and there's a lot that we have to deal with on this committee. But we get to sit here and hear, whether it's a teacher that's doing 7 continents in 7 days and 7 marathons, or, a teacher that's getting an award and going above and beyond standard expectation of what you'd expect, and students who are putting sticky notes on the walls to make others feel better, 5th grade students who are coming in and going above and beyond and trying to work towards creating something and being a part of a building that they don't get to be part of. And our meetings there's a lot of busy work, but they're also filled with a lot of awesome things that are happening from the staff and students of this town on a regular basis. And I feel very privileged to be a part of that. And I want to make that clear, because I think there's a lot out there at times, and this town is pretty incredible with all the things it does do both staff and students and families, and the support that it gets. And we always get to sit here and hear all those things that a lot of people don't necessarily get to hear. So I'd like to thank all of you for that. And on that note, move on to even going above and beyond.
And so in terms of communications, and I echo your sentiments, one of my taglines, I guess, one of the things that I say often is great things happen in our schools every day. And that is true. Every single day, great things happen in the Carver Public Schools. And these are just a small sample. We could look at a different week and we come up with different recognitions. So we could do that on a weekly basis. For communications, we talked about this in our last meeting. So I did on the school committee's behalf, I did draft letters that were sent to all of the Carver Public Schools employees who were involved in the shelters during the recent storms. Those include Kat Farrar, Jesse Resendez, Walter Cole, Susan Cole, Dave Siedentoff, and Lindsay Resendez. So those were employees of the school district who went above and beyond in terms of putting in their time to make sure the shelter was open and running and working with the emergency management staff in Carver to assist our residents. As we all know, it's been a really tough winter and we've had some tough storms. And they, like I said, they've really dedicated themselves on those days when people don't have power to be at that shelter, making sure that it's up and running. So I didn't include the letter that was sent to everyone, but it was just one sample is in your packet of the letters that went out.
Thank you. So let's take a jump back to the approval of minutes. I take some
Make a
motions.
motion to approve the executive session minutes for February 12th.
Second.
Separately?
Yeah, because I didn't know how many people were on everyone.
Present.
So let's do it that way.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any questions? Comments? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the executive session minutes from February 27th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Questions? Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from March 12th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions there? Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'd like to make a motion to approve the executive session minutes from March 18th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. I'm assuming no questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Reports from the superintendent.
Going to reports from the superintendent. We have a couple of personnel updates. First, we'd like to announce the retirement of Deb Giokis, music teacher at Carver Elementary School. She put in her letter of retirement a couple weeks ago, and we'll be recognizing her at her retirement at the district-wide retirement party, which will be coming up on May 17th. So Thursday, May 17th, 4 to 6, and the committee will get some more information about that because you'll all be invited to that retirement party as well. We had a resignation of 6th grade science teacher Amy Politano. And we had one new hire over the past month. We've hired Beth Goodwin as the .5 ELL teacher.
Scott, how long had Amy been with us?
4 years. So I believe she was in her 4th year. 3rd year. I hired her. so she was hired by me when I was the principal. Yeah. So she might be in her 3rd year.
Okay.
So it's either 3rd or 4th.
Well, she's
Third.
done a good job since she's been here. My daughter will be bummed to see her go.
Yeah. Actually, I believe her husband is living up in Maine currently. He has a job up there, and they've just made a decision to relocate up to that area. of the
Big
country.
commute.
Yeah, it's a long commute from Maine to Carver. So she's made a decision to move up to Maine and look for a position up there.
Understand?
Carver Elementary or Education Foundation.
Carver Educational Foundation. So Mr. Schultz Mike Schultz and Michelle Nixon. Michelle Nixon's the president. Mike Schultz, one of the active members. They're here in support. I told them I wouldn't necessarily bring them up, that I would kind of give everybody a summary, but if people wanted to ask them specific questions, they would come up and look to answer it. In one of our meetings, I think we talked about looking for an
Sure you
update
have
of the work that the Carver Educational Foundation has been doing. So I just wanted to give people a general quick summary of the work that has been happening and some of our upcoming events, and so that people understand we have some fundraisers. We have a fundraiser coming up, and I think that some of our fundraisers we've been doing, the goal has been to get ourselves off the ground a little bit. So I think when people start to see 2, 3, or 4 fundraisers, but not necessarily see the fruits of those efforts yet, they're going to begin to see the fruits of those efforts. So in general, we've been active in raising funds to support programs in Carver. The foundation has been working on supporting the walking running path at the new elementary school, which was proposed by Renee DeMarche and was part of her 7-continent the World Marathon Challenge, doing the 7 continents in 7 days. So the foundation has also been raising funds to support grant opportunities for teachers. Over the past year, the foundation has received a generous donation from the E. Tilson Pratt Trust of $17,667.13. Meredith Cargill also applied, and we've been notified we're going to be a recipient, meaning the Carver Educational Foundation, of a $10,000 grant from the South Shore Community Partners in Prevention and Health Literacy. That grant was specifically written for the purpose of supporting the walking running path at the elementary school. At this time, the foundation has a balance of approximately $40,000, of which $30,000 is dedicated to the walking running path. Going forward, the board of the foundation has voted to put 50% of all monies raised to support the construction of that walking running path until it's completed. We've also agreed that the other 50% will go to support other community/teacher grants. Some early estimates is that the walking running path is probably going to cost in the area of around $50,000. We think with $50,000 we can get that path and project done. Having $30,000 towards that goal is really a good first step for us. So we're excited about that, and we think that that's realistic over the next couple of years to get to the point of building that. And I think that would be a tremendous accomplishment for the foundation to create a community, really a community outdoor activity that anyone can use by having that path. I think we've showed it before. There's a link in here in terms of what's envisioned. So Meredith, I don't know if you can pull the link up for everybody to take a look at for the walking running path. And we wouldn't begin construction on that path anyhow until the fields were done, the new elementary school was done. So that piece would have to be completed first. There was no intention that this would ever be part of the actual building project. So once the building project is completed, then we look towards moving towards the walking and running path. The foundation is also accepted, while Meredith looks for the link. That's okay. The foundation has also accepted its first round of grant applications. We're going to be reviewing those grant applications at our April meeting, and at this time the foundation has agreed to fund $2,500 in this first round.
Thank you.
So, you know, we're going to start funding teacher type of grants really this month. Our next fundraiser is Saturday, May 5th in 2018. It's called Hats and Horses for the Kentucky Derby. It's from 4 to 8 at Southers Mass Country Club. It's a Kentucky Derby event. The concept of the fundraiser is, I don't know if anybody's been to the Kentucky Derby or watches it, but the Kentucky Derby in essence is you're supposed to dress in your most festive attire. So it's supposed to be beautiful hats and dresses, men in creative suits and ties. So our goal is we're going to ask people to come dressed in their festive Kentucky Derby attire and watch the Kentucky Derby at Southers Marsh. So that's May 5th, which is the day of the Kentucky Derby, from 4 to 8 at Southers Marsh Country Club. If we look up on the board, we have a vision of the walking path, running path. That's been laid out this is designed by HMFH, our architects on the building project. They agreed to put this together for us. The yellow is actually part of the existing trail that's over there, so there is a walking running path over there. The purple would be, I mean, if you can blow it up. I don't know if you can blow it up just a little bit.
You can try.
Down the bottom. Down the bottom of the plus. Yeah. The purple would be new pavement, which would go around the newly constructed softball fields. So obviously we're a couple of years away from having this walking running path put in place because, as I said, the soccer fields and the softball fields are going to have to be completed first as part of the building project. But I think that, as I said, we're excited that we're moving towards this becoming a reality. And I think the Carver Educational Foundation is committed to having this walking, running path, which would be open to the entire community, become a reality. So that's just kind of an update of where we've been and where we're going. So big picture, we're looking to support this big project of getting this path done. On a smaller level, on a micro level, we're looking to fund grants put in by teachers and members of the community. And as I said, our first round of funding is going to actually happen this month. And then we'd all love to have you come out and support us at our next fundraiser for the Kentucky Derby. If you're interested in tickets, you can contact either one. You can contact the main office at the middle high school. You can contact central office. There's flyers that have gone out where you can deliver mail checks into. But we can point you in the right direction if you contact central office or the main office at the middle high school. Any questions at this time? Mr. Schultz, Mr. Nixon, any things you want to add? Is that a good summary of where we are and what we've been doing?
Yeah, I brought up inviting them as the opportunity to thank them, because I know that, being a part of these different foundations and getting things up and running is extremely difficult. And you've done a great job in the last year of getting that off the ground, and now I feel like it's established a little bit. And, really I wanted to recognize you both with those efforts, because sometimes you start beating yourself up a little bit about getting something forward. We recognize it. We see it. Mr. Schultz, you've, in the last year, a lot of different things you've taken an approach of being the face of, trying to get things accomplished in the town, and it's impressive. So that's why we wanted to have you through tonight.
I am remiss. We have another Carver Educational Foundation board member in front of us, Ms. Foley. So Ms. Foley's actually, Paula Foley's been a very active member of the board as well.
I didn't see your name written down, so I apologize.
I did not invite her as a presenter for the Educational Foundation, but as I looked out, I said, I'm missing someone. So
speaking to just the group as a whole, getting that off the ground has been, I know I've attended 2 of the events, and I wanted to make sure the third one was publicized, so you get an attempt to get ahead of that a little bit. Where would people go to find where the 4th one's going to be? Is there a website, or is there something that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
How does it get out to the public so that people?
We have a website, and we send home flyers, Facebook, we have a Facebook page, a Twitter page.
Nice. So there are things sent out, and then you have those pages. Yep. That's great. I just want to make sure you could get your publicity out. So if there's anything that we can do as far as retweeting and getting things out there for us, let us know. We'd like to help you out as much as we can.
Yeah, we'd love to have the board. We'd love to have the board there on May 5th.
I have attended 2. I'll try to get to the 3rd. I promise. So, but thank you for your efforts. Appreciate it.
Other good news.
All right. So another grant that Meredith and Paula applied for, and Ruby's been working on as well, is the Safe and Supportive Schools grant. So Meredith and Ruby are going to make a presentation about that grant and the work they've been doing at the really district-wide level, but really at the elementary school specifically.
All right. So as you are used to, I usually present once a year about grants, and I talk a little bit about the difference between 2 different types of grants that we tend to get in Carver. One is called an entitlement grant, where an allocation is based on a formula, and it's a set amount that the district would get, and then you have to follow the parameters that are set forth by the DESE, or Department of Education. And then they also have competitive grants, where you can choose to apply and you can submit an application. You agree to, again, the red tape and the different parameters, and then from there they go ahead and they make a decision, and there's usually a very specific allotment that they're going to divide up over the course of the number of people that write the application that they end up awarding it to. So this past fall, they posted a competitive grant. We weren't sure if we were going to get it, but we found out that we got it. And it's called the Safe and Supportive Schools Grant. So Ruby and I are going to talk a little bit about what is expected at the state level with this grant, and then what we're doing locally, both at the school level and then eventually at the district level. So to give you a little bit about the grant background of Safe and Supportive supportive schools. The idea behind this is the money can be funded through two different streams. One is a planning grant, which is what we got, and then the other is an implementation grant. And there is a set allocation for each. And for the planning grant, the money is supposed to go for teacher stipends so that teachers can go through something. It's a tool that's used to self-assess where we are as a school and where we are as a district in terms of different parameters for being safe and supportive. And I know right now there's a lot about school safety in the news, and we'll be talking more about that later on tonight. But the focus of this grant is really to look at what schools are doing to engage the community, to engage parents, and then more importantly, what they're doing with students during the course of the day to make sure that students have the supports that they need around trauma, around mental health, and that sort of thing. And so with the planning grant, the expectation is that the money is expended by June 30th of this year. We got the maximum award of $10,000 for the planning grant. 12 of the applications that were sent to the state from other districts were rejected, 17 were approved for. That's a combination of both the funding and the implementation. So we were elated that we got it and that we were able to identify teachers that would be willing to serve on this committee and go through this tool that Ruby's going to talk about. So we've assembled a school team. I'll talk a little bit at the end about the district team. They're going to utilize a self-assessment tool, and right now we're analyzing those results. At the end of this work, at the end of June 30th, the idea is there's a priority of a couple of things that they can work on, and then we'll reapply and see if we can get the implementation grant for next year.
Okay, so with that being said, I will talk a little bit about the school-based team. So we have, it's actually a community-based team. We reached out to our parents, members of the community, as well as educators. We wanted to have a large representation of our stakeholders to work with us on this, really looking at this assessment tool. So we have a range of staff members. We have some paraprofessionals. We have a couple of our counselors, our BCBA, a school psychologist, 2 teachers from the K through 2 primary group of educators, as well as 2 teachers from our elementary group. So again, it's a large school, but we wanted to have a diversified staff so that we can really together look closely and reflect on the assessment tool. So I'll talk a little bit about the assessment tool as well as the framework. So the behavioral health in public schools framework, if you can go to that next slide, Meredith. So again, as I mentioned, BHPS is behavioral health in public schools. So I'll start with the assessment tool. The tool really is designed to really provide the structure for us to reflect as a staff and look at what we are doing currently. What are our school-wide practices? How are we supporting our students? And really, what is our overall capacity to promote behavioral health in students? The role of the team really is to identify, as Meredith said, 2 to 3 priority areas, which would then inform what's called an action plan. So then the goal of the action plan would be to create, again, safe, collaborative services, including all of the students that need behavioral health supports, so that ultimately we're setting up all of our students for success, so they can achieve at their highest potential. So then the framework piece, so the framework includes a 3-tier model. We've talked about that 3-tier model in other aspects, like response to intervention, whether it's for reading or math. For behavioral health, that Tier 1 really looks at fostering the emotional well-being of all of the students through a school-wide model that is supportive. The Tier 2 aspect really calls for supports and services that really look closely at more preventative supports intervening early, minimizing escalation of behavioral health symptoms in children. And then that third tier is usually a smaller group of students, so you're really looking at very intensive services, coordinating care, working with area providers. What you're trying to do here is ensure services and connect families, connect children, and all together helping them feel like they belong to a very supportive school culture. So when you look at that whole three-part design, then within the framework, there are 6 focus areas, so as you see on there. So the expectation is for us as a team to look at all of these 6 areas. Leadership, so how our school leaders are creating a supportive school environment and promoting collaborative services, and then really addressing them using that 3-tier model. When it comes to PD, again, providing professional development for teachers, admin, our behavioral support staff in the school, and again, doing it in such a way that it's using that 3-tier model. Accessing resources, again, here identifying, coordinating, creating school community and behavioral health services, so that ultimately we're improving the school climate, and the school-wide environment, and that we're really recognizing the need for resources for all of our students, especially those with behavioral health needs, but that we're looking at their clinical needs, their cultural needs, their linguistic needs, and making sure that what we're doing is appropriate for their families as well. Then there's the academic and non-academic piece. Again, the approaches here that we need to look at are those approaches promoting success in all of our students, especially those with behavioral health needs. And the next aspect is school policies, procedures, and protocols. Looking at those sections, really those are the sections that helped provide the foundation for us to implement the work that we're going to do. And then collaboration with families. In this area, really supporting our families and ensuring that our parents, our families, grandparents are all included in all aspects of their education. So this is really looking at the whole child. We've talked a lot in the last couple of years about supporting the whole child, and that's really what this model is expecting us to do. Ultimately, then, we're setting up all of our students for success, for academic success. So then we have in the next few slides the guiding principles that the BHPS has put out. And again, I won't go through every single one of them, but these are the principles that the team is looking at together. The tool, really the assessment tool, just to give you an idea, the team has been meeting. Once we had, we learned about the grant, that we were awarded the grant, that it was late December. We put the team together in early January, and we've been meeting since about mid-January, every other week, from 2 to 3 hours to really look at the tool. The tool basically takes us through a series of questions and asks us to really reflect on what we're doing, and it's an opportunity for us to be really open and honest and have dialogue, because ultimately that's going to then provide us with some responses and help us to prioritize in 2 to 3 areas. So we're also working with a adjunct professor. His name is Joel Rastusha. He's done a lot of work actually with trauma-sensitive schools. He's written a book called Trauma-Sensitive Schools in collaboration with 3 or 4 other professors from Harvard, Boston College as well. So he has visited us. We're meeting with him every month, and he's guiding us with the design of the action plan. We'll be meeting with him the next time after April break, and at that point we'll be very close to finalizing an action plan. we're focusing on a trauma-sensitive school. One of the things that's very interesting about this whole grant, and I have to give kudos actually to Meredith, Tanya, and Paula, because they found out about the grant in late fall and opened up an email. The deadline was soon. They met together. They applied for the grant, and within a few weeks, we learned we had the grant. But all along, Carver Elementary School, we've been working on being a trauma-sensitive school, really trying to give our teachers more information, more professional development on what it means to be a trauma-sensitive school, and really understanding all of our children and applying best practices in social emotional learning that, again, will support all of our students. So back to Joel Restuccia. He's someone that has been working with many schools in Massachusetts and knows a lot about trauma-sensitive schools and how to help them build an action plan and move forward with an implementation, because that's the most important part, really.
So to wrap up,
Meredith, before you move on, though, I'd like to see if anyone has any questions so far as to where they're at the school level. If everybody's good.
Well, is what you've come up with and what you plan to implement going to be part of the community forum on the 30th?
No.
That they're not going to.
No,
separate.
That's separate.
And the only connection I was going to, that's our next topic on the agenda, is the
Right.
community forum. The only connection I was going to make here is that I think at the community forum we're going to talk about a lot of things, and some of those things are maybe response-oriented, where I ultimately believe the best thing that we can do as a school district to ensure the safety of our students is making sure that we are a trauma-sensitive school. Not even trauma is maybe the wrong word. It's really looking at, this is focused on students' behavioral health and the social emotional well-being. So even though it's called the Safe and Supportive Schools Grant, it's not about SROs, it's not about security, it's not about metal detectors, it's not about those types of things. It's about creating a community and an environment where every student feels safe because their social emotional needs are being met. But ultimately, I feel like in some ways that's the most important thing we can do, because if students are social emotionally well adjusted, if students are connected to each other, if students are connected to an adult in the building, if students are connected to their families, if students are connected to the school, the connected student's going to be more successful, and that goes a lot. I think that that's my personal belief set. That's the most important thing we can do to ensure that we have safe schools. Now, we may talk about that a little bit at the forum per se, and this work was all happening, and the decision to apply for this grant was well before Parkland, Florida. It's not a response to that, but I think it's a very important part, and I might even just made the argument maybe the most important part of what we can really be doing to ensure that students are safe. So I'm really happy that this work is happening within the district. But it also, yes, it definitely has a connection to it per se, but it wasn't. This wasn't happening as a direct response to
Not reactive.
what's happening. It's not reactive at all.
It's proactive.
It's proactive.
And we've discussed this quite a bit before, and I do have a question for you on that. But I think something to keep in mind too, as the sort of policy setters, is this is a huge shift. So teachers are generally compassionate people, but this is more expectation too. You're talking about not academic awareness, but social emotional awareness. And this is something that schools previously are always creating safe environments for compassionate people, but the expectation of emotional understanding is far more than it's ever been. And this is a lot that's put on a short plate of time that people are in school to make sure that all these things are happening. And it's a different family scenario in that process. So whether you like it or don't like it, it's something that has to be done these days. But this is a lot of extra emotional and expectation, I think, that's put on the people that are involved in that on a daily basis. To that extent, with this specific one, so what's the criteria to move to the second level? Is there, like, you'll choose the top three and then those are sort of approved, or is that part of where you were going with the discussion?
a little bit. It's less about that level of approval and more about linking our findings to how we're going to increase practice in the classroom and in the school around these particular particular situations. And we don't know what we're up against in terms of how much funding will be available next year at the state and what other districts will be competing for that money. But ideally, I would hope that if it's well written and we'll write it in a way that hopefully we'll get it, we can delineate what sort of things we're going to do. So the priority areas are there. And I do believe, I don't want to speak on your behalf, that we'll move forward with a lot of it independent of the funding.
Right.
Because a lot of it has to do with professional development. And as you were referring to, there is an expectation placed on schools largely because we know much more about brain development now. We also know that there are startling statistics that anywhere between 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 students suffer from some sort of anxiety or depression. And we know that when they're in that state that they're unavailable for learning. So you can be, doing as much drilling about math facts or trying to get them to read as you want, but if they're in a state of trauma, state of anxiety, state of depression, there's a completely different skill set that a teacher has to shift into and really differentiate based on the student. So when you talk about the toolbox that teachers come with, it's ever expanding based not only on research, but trying to respond to this changed clientele of students. And we notice it at the elementary school with kindergarten screening. Paula leads this extensive team that goes above and beyond reaching out to preschools and really doing a lot of work, but we notice that every year that there are kiddos that are coming in with more unique and startling family experiences or personal experiences, and we want to help support them with no judgment, just giving them the tools that they need in order to be successful, first in terms of social emotional learning and then in terms of academics, so that we can get to that academic piece. So that's really the construct and kind of the impetus behind why we did this. So the next step to that's the school level. The next step is there's a very small district team made up of myself and Michelle Taylor, Karen Tyker, and then I asked Scott if I could ask for a school committee representative because we had listed that on the grant. That was something that the state was looking for. And the whole purpose of that is to really quickly review the tool, review the priority areas, but more importantly, have a link if there's anything in our policies or procedures that may need to be examined in order to accommodate these changes that we're finding need to take place. And so if you're interested, you can reach out to Scott, and Scott can let me know, or you can send me an email. But it will be 1, maybe 2 meetings, and the idea is that the district helps support the school and vice versa. And we're a small district, so it's a little bit different than having, 30 elementary schools or something like that. But it's fascinating work, and it really does get to the root of why we're in business, and that is to support the whole child. So I've been grateful that the elementary reached out, and we've been able to partner on this because I think it's a great opportunity.
So this is an elementary initiative.
It is, and we can apply for
That's good.
funding at the middle high school level. There's a ton of work that's being done there as well in regards to social emotional learning. But as Ruby referred to, there was a very quick turnaround time. So it was one of those pieces where we had to work swiftly on it.
So is this, there's a, and not to intercede on what you're doing as best interest, but if it seems to be talking about policies and procedures and changes, is this something where end result would be brought, you want a representative there, but the end result will be brought to the committee itself, or?
If there's anything involving school policy and school committee policy, it would absolutely go through the typical vein that it needs to in order to get passed. But if there's nothing like that, if it's just more support that needs to be done, or if it's something that's procedural, so more internal, then that would be something that would be examined as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so I suppose you're looking for a volunteer then?
Yeah, and we can do that now or later.
If someone wants to volunteer right now, they certainly can, or you can think about it and let me know. Either I'm open to people's thoughts, because you don't have a time frame yet of when.
No, it'll be sometime in between now and the end of June. We'll probably meet once or twice, so probably May.
All right, so why don't you take a little time, everybody, to digest it, and then see what.
Yeah, and if you think about it and you're interested in it, you can. If it's okay with you, James, you can just email me and let me know, and we'll go from there. If we have a couple people interested, then we'll work that out. But if we have,
for sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks, guys.
very much, and thank you, Ruby.
Meredith, thank you.
And Paula, thank you. also.
Paul's been
very
very
much.
active in this too.
Get your name in everywhere, but it's not showing up anywhere.
Wants to stay in the background tonight.
So moving on into the next forum,
So at our last school committee meeting, we talked about a little bit of, the committee asked me to establish a forum. We had talked on school safety. So I've been meeting with Chief Dufley. We've met a couple times to talk about it. We've selected a date. So our goal really tonight is just to say that we've selected a date and give you a general construct of what we're thinking in terms of what would happen that evening. So the community forum is going to be Monday, April 30th at 6:30 at the Middle High School Auditorium. And our general thought would be that the chief and I would kind of do an overview of general school building security from both the school's perspective and the police perspective, just to give some people some background. And I know a lot of people know what we're doing, but maybe there'd be some benefit just to kind of give an overview of that. Talk a little bit about our ALICE procedures. And the goal is this is not going to be an ALICE training. It's not going to be extensive where we just go through all the details. Just give a general overview of ALICE. There's been a lot of ideas, possible ideas about security that have been floated out there, both in the news and in the community. And so the chief and I thought that him and I would talk a little bit about those just to address them, the ones we've heard or thought about, and what our perspectives are on them. And then after that, we'd just really like it to be an informal conversation and to hear from members of the community of what are their concerns, what would they like to see be changed, what would they like to see be different, and what can we do to ensure the security of our students in the Carver Public Schools. We invite the entire community of Carver to attend. So we'd like everyone to be there. After this evening, we're going to start publicizing the event in terms of through our means of communication. So we'll put it out through Jupiter Grades, we'll put it out in newsletters, we'll put it out on Twitter, we'll put it out on the Facebook pages, we'll put it on the school committee website, on the school district's website, and really just encouraging anyone who wants to come and have that discussion. So right now we're looking to have a little bit of formality. So I have invited the administration team to be there. I think that in terms of maybe if there was any kind of official panel, that it might just be the two principals. And myself and the chief, and I've also reached out to Chief Weston from the fire department to be there and get everybody's input. So that's kind of an overview of what we're looking to do on April 30th.
So I think that looks like a good panel. I think it looks like what we would want there to represent what everyone has to say. I guess my question would be, if we're all going to be there, how do we address that, really? I mean, do we have to call a meeting for that, or, because if we're all going to be present at that, which I assume will be.
We can check for that. Obviously, you're all invited.
I guess my question is, what if somebody has a question for the school committee? How are we to respond if we're not in a session and we're all there?
I would think my general response to that is that any questions on that evening, we thought about this a little bit, we've talked about it a little bit, is any questions that evening should be directed to me as the superintendent, and then not necessarily directly asking school committee members to weigh in on a specific policy or discussion. School committee members could certainly share their thoughts, I think, at a public forum, but ultimately, I don't think our intention is to call the school committee into session and have it be a public meeting of the school committee.
I'd rather have it be a less formal.
Right, so the goal is for it to be an informal discussion, and so my perspective is that everything in terms of questions would come through me as a superintendent, and then I would appropriately bring those things back to the committee as a whole as necessary. And then specifically if we were looking to adopt any kind of major policy change, that would clearly come back to the school committee in terms of, if we were going to really change a policy or a safety protocol. I think the school committee would have to weigh in that in public session, and the goal would be to bring that back to probably the May meeting to look at those things. So that would be my suggestion, is that, but I will also check with legal counsel.
Just to be safe.
Yeah, I'll check with legal counsel, because I do feel like obviously the members of the school committee are going to want to be there.
Well, and I also know that
if we're all there, does that in essence constitute a public meeting?
And I also know that some may want to have input and say something about that, and I'd like to know where the ability is, or where we stand with being able to be part of it.
Because ultimately, in a public meeting law, if the committee's all there and we're weighing policy options,
right,
it's a meeting.
Right.
But if it's a public forum where you're listening, so I will seek clarification for the members of the committee on that.
Okay.
And we'll do what makes most sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
The school building updates.
All right, school building update. The new school project continues to move along on time and on budget. I want to go over some of the last days of school and just talk about the calendar, just to make sure we're all on board of where we are. Currently, the last day of school at the middle high school is Thursday, June 21st. And at Carver Elementary School, it's Friday, June 22nd. Though not ideal, we believe that we'll be able to prepare effectively to turn the buildings over to the construction company, CTA, by the middle of the next week and ahead of the contractual deadline of Friday, June 29th. At this time, I do not believe we need to make any adjustments to the school calendar to make up snow days is necessary. I don't think we need to do that, because I know we had some discussions about, do we need to look at the calendar for the rest of the year? Are we getting too close to that turnover date? Are we able to get it all done? So my concern is if we went into that next week, I was concerned. But that right now, the last day is Friday, June 22nd for the elementary school. I think we're going to be okay. And actually, doing some review of the policies and the laws around this, is if there was to be another loss of a school day between now and June 22nd, we actually are not required to make it up. So any school day lost after April 1st, and if you've already used your 5 extra days scheduled into the calendar, you do not need to make up the day. Now, the interesting part of that would be is if we did have to cancel next Tuesday, the middle high school would have to make it up because they have not used their 5 days. So they would then go to Friday, June 22nd, like the elementary school, and then after that, we wouldn't have to make up any days. So the regulation is any day lost after April 1st does not need to be made up if you've used your 5 extra days already scheduled. So we're right at the max. I don't foresee us missing any more days from here going forward, but it's been a strange year. So you never know. But I don't feel like we need to make any adjustments to the calendar. At the last meeting of the school building committee on March 26th, the committee voted on the names of several spaces for the building. I just wanted to review that with the school committee. Each grade level has a project area. It was determined that each project area is going to be named after a historical Carver figure. 5th grade teacher Deb Diswaldo, with the assistance of Amy Shepperson from the Carver Public Library, led a team of 5th grade students who researched and proposed names to the committee. The 5th grade students who were involved were Michaela Swanson, Sarah Stairs, Ava Ricker, Kyle Hoffman, Maddie Azara, and Ben Durnant. The names they selected for the project areas were the Pocanonnets, which is the first Indians to settle in the Carver area for kindergarten, Jonathan Shaw for 1st grade, Bartlett Murdoch for 2nd grade, William Savory for 3rd grade, LSD Atwood for 4th grade, and Laura Hayward Hudson for 5th grade. The students made a presentation that night. They went through each name, the historical significance of them. The school building committee voted on those names. It's not my intention to go through that presentation again tonight, but I just wanted to recognize those things. I also wanted the committee to be aware that in addition to those project areas, the school building committee voted to name 2 other spaces in the building. The gym is going to be named after Richard Dick Ward. Will be the Richard Dick Ward Gymnasium. And the story room is going to be named after former Superintendent Elizabeth Sorrell. So it'll be the Elizabeth A. Sorrell Story Room. In each of those areas, there'll be a plaque of dedication to those people. And they'll all be recognized as part of the grand opening for the building. I do think the building committee is going to take up a separate discussion of, there's been some discussion about maybe having a separate evening for Dick Ward in terms of the gymnasium. And that will really be a decision of the school building committee as we go forward with terms of planning for the grand opening. But in some ways, I do think that is that would be a nice thing to do in terms of for Dick still being a member of the community and having to have his family and the effect he's had in the community. I think it might be a nice thing to, obviously we do it as part of the grand opening like we did for everybody else, but maybe we'll do something separate as well.
Well, that's what we talked about, was that, especially for that it might be a little undershadowed, I guess, if it was mixed in with the grand opening. So to make it more for that to be a specific event was what the committee kind of talked about.
And I think we're gonna bring back a formal recommendation to the building committee at the next meeting to have an evening for Dick Ward be a separate evening. And actually, I've been in touch with Dick's family, and we've even started to, if we do that, I'd like them to be involved in the planning of that, and that, in terms of even selecting the time of what might be the best for their family to do that. But that would occur after the grand opening. So the grand opening which is planned for August 25th, would go forward. So just wanted to give the committee an update on those names.
And we have a subcommittee meeting on the 25th, I believe it is, right? Wednesday after vacation, for the closing of the old elementary and the opening of the events that will be occurring through both of those.
How many other spaces are available there? Are there any other spaces that haven't been dedicated to something or someone?
There's always a space.
There's always spaces, but there are two gathering areas, one on each floor of the building. In theory, a gathering area could also have a historical name if we wanted to stay with that theme. Right now, ultimately, we tasked Mrs. Gesualdo and those fifth grade students to come up with some recommendations. And the building committee talked about naming the project areas, but that doesn't mean it couldn't consider other areas.
Well, I'm just thinking about something recognizing Governor John Carver, since
Well, they actually talked about that at the meeting that
What'd
night,
they
too. Yeah.
I didn't see the meeting.
Should watch it. It's exciting. But there was reference to that also.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talked a little bit about the rationale for not naming one of the project areas using that name.
Okay. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the building?
Just that the boxes and the item reuse, we have it scheduled. Boxes will be moved Saturday and Sunday. Item reuse starts Monday. We're hoping to let everything out of the buildings by Wednesday for a turnover date of Wednesday, 27th, I believe. And FF&E, all the furniture, we've issued POs for all except for one vendor right now. So that's all on phase 2. Items should start coming in middle of July.
So I don't necessarily know if we're ready to do that now, but has this committee heard anything about the opening or closing ceremonies at all as far
I
as?
heard about the opening, but that's it. I didn't hear about the closing.
Okay. Because there's some pretty good things that are getting scheduled. So, Ruby, do you
want to do a
I
summary?
mean, you don't have any notes on hand right now? I don't know if you know anything off the top. Some of the dates maybe and what the plan is?
While she's pulling that up, are we doing anything? I know we had talked about the bricks. Are we doing?
We're still.
That's part of
That's part of the
Oh, okay.
both actually in a way, right?
Yeah.
To do it you could buy or purchase at the closing and
Cool.
pick up at the opening.
So on June 9th, we actually have our fond farewell scheduled. That's a Saturday, and we're working right now on a flyer that we're going to be sharing at the town meeting, which is that Tuesday night after break. It's actually the 24th, right?
24th, yep.
So that evening, we're going to have some information on a brochure with regard to June 9th. But at that fond farewell, we're having, we're going to have music. There will be pictures that we have gathered. Actually, Mr. Baldo has worked with me on that. He has gathered hundreds and hundreds of photos that we're going to share digitally on a slideshow. So there will be a slideshow in both of the gymnasium. It's an opportunity for the community to come in, to walk through the buildings, spend time in the buildings, just kind of interact with parts of it if they'd like to write their name on the wall and sign it with the Sharpie. We thought that would be kind of nice before the buildings come down. There will be the PTO is working with some of the community restaurants, and actually even Mr. Portland's helping to have some food for the event. As I mentioned earlier, there will be music, so we anticipate there will be music outside on the circle as parents and community members arrive. That we will have a photographer as well. So part of the idea is to have residents that are coming to visit or spending time in the beginning of the summer months to come and bring their group of friends and take photos, so we'll have those opportunities as well. And that'll be, right now it's slated for 3 o'clock. on June 9th, 3 to 7, and we're calling it the Fond Farewell. And we want to make it a big deal and give everyone an opportunity to just come and spend time on campus. We anticipate that they will be spending a lot of time in the John Carver building, signing their names on the wall, so that'll be exciting. And then what we have in August is we have
Ruby, that's when we're doing the bricks on that night also, aren't we?
We'll sell the bricks on
On
June
that
9th.
night.
That's the
Right.
intent. We don't know the
And
number.
select.
We don't know the number of bricks that are going to be available. I have been in contact with Mr. Del Brascoli, who's going to has an etching machine that can etch the bricks. So we're still trying to figure out what's a reasonable number to be able to do for him to be able to produce. But we're going to be selling a brick that would be etched.
And there were other items we had talked about possibly and other fundraising ideas.
Right. So the etching of the bricks, and then a few of the chairs that are in the Governor John Carver building. Dave is looking at trying to preserve as best he can at least a few of them. That seems to be a high sort
From
of
the
interest
gymnasium.
From the front gym.
from the front gym.
Yeah.
Yes. Those
Piece of
seats.
the old garden.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha, so those bricks are something to take home with you,
Yeah.
not something.
Not that, well, you'll purchase them there, but then they'll be, are we talking about placing them at the
We hadn't
school?
discussed that either
Are
way.
they being reallocated to something else?
No,
in
I thought the
town?
conversation was you
The
took it home.
conversation is you take it home and you put it wherever you want, maybe in a
Yours
garden.
etched
It's
From the
just,
building,
Yeah.
so you
it's
take it
yours
with
to
you.
keep,
So we hadn't talked about placing them like
right,
in the
a
walkway
paper.
at the new
Yeah.
school.
Part of the issue is Dave has a very short window of, and I mean, they're demolishing the building. It's not gonna be an easy task to get those old bricks and to get, so we're only sort of counting on a set amount. And
Yeah.
also to get those etched in the time that we need. It's not gonna be an overwhelming amount of bricks that are gonna be accessible.
And not saying we couldn't look at that, but also a lot of the site work's going to be done.
Right.
So when building turnover happens, the walkways, all that's going to be completed. So they would have to go back and rip a piece up and put it in. Not saying we couldn't look at doing that.
Oh, no, I wouldn't want to rip anything up, but I'm just more or less saying you can put it
Right.
anywhere. I mean, if you have there's something that is a piece of the town, so it's just, you could use it anywhere, I think, in the town. I'm just making.
You could even be out in the fields. It could
You
be,
could put it
put
on
the
the
bricks
fields,
down
you
by
could-
the
yeah,
fields while they do the
exactly.
fields.
I think you
put
could
it
really
anywhere.
do anything with it, but I love the idea. I think the etching is a great idea, so you guys are doing a great job, but it's just a matter of bringing it home or putting it somewhere. I think putting it somewhere might mean a little bit more, because then it's back in the town. My thoughts, but really anything you guys want to do is fine. You're doing a great job.
There was
Thank
a
you,
lot of
thank you.
conversation about that, though. There really was, as
Not
far as
There
the
was.
durability of the bricks and what you would want it for and that kind of thing. So, because it's not necessarily, I think the conversation was that it's not going to be like an etching of whatever you want to say. It's going to be more like a set John Carver Elementary
Here, like,
School
yeah, the
with the
date,
date,
yeah.
kind of thing. So it's not really a dedication that way.
Oh, it was just an idea. I was just throwing
Yep.
it out there. That's all.
Was there any discussion about possible contaminants on the bricks from demolition?
They were at our meeting when we discussed that. PMA was there.
Yeah.
So if it can't happen, it can't happen, but if it can happen, they were pretty certain that everything
Right.
was all set, and they spoke to Dave already. The estimation was he'll probably get about 100 bricks.
Yeah, we've flowed the number between 50 and 100 of bricks.
You
So
know,
actually,
depending
we had to
on what
recover and etch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was
they-
worried about asbestos being on them or something being on them, after they get ripped down?
No, they showed no concern of that.
At the time of the discussion,
Actually, I don't
yeah.
believe any, I don't think any of that's tested
Exterior.
hot. Where we've had concerns is on the windows.
Yeah.
So that's where we're gonna have to do, some of that, when they do that demolition, they're gonna have to look at
Mediation.
some of that mediation in those areas around the windows. But I don't think there were any issues around the
Around
bricks
the bricks,
themselves.
okay.
That's that contingency fund.
Right, then as a school community, back with the students and all of the staff, we're going to have the time capsule celebration, and that is tentatively set for June 21st with, again, the students and staff. So actually, Mr. Baldo is working with a couple of the other teachers and several students on all of the things that are going to go in the time capsule. So that work has started. It's been ongoing, but we're really trying to capture messages or information information or items of interest that the students have voted on, and get all of those compiled together and celebrated. But really, before those items go in the new time capsule, it's getting the items out of the old time capsule. So when Dave, actually next week for April break, Dave is going to be working on retrieving the old time capsule, and then there'll be that exciting event. So we're going to combine them. We're going to combine that. So we will open up the old time capsule on the 21st and have that, make it a big deal with the kids, and really have the newspaper, have you all come if you'd like to come as well, and just share in the excitement of what's in that time capsule, and talk about all of those little pieces of it that we find in there. And then some of those might be selected to go back in the new time capsule as well, which that will then happen at the grand opening. So the grand opening is scheduled for August 25th, and that's a Saturday. We're scheduled to have that at 3 p.m. And as Scott mentioned earlier, we're going to have students very involved in the entire grand opening. We want to have the speakers that were here the other night at the building committee talk about the project area rooms, share some of that information. Our architect is working with us on some plaques that are going to be made and ready for the project areas to be hung. So we're going to make that sort of a nice opportunity to acknowledge the students and the and our community members in Carver. Then we're going to have students helping with tours of the new school. So prior to the actual grand opening, we're going to have several of the older students trained come in and visit the school and get to know it really well. I'm sure we will all need a map. It's so huge. They need to learn about where everything is. So students will be involved with that. There'll be music. We're going to have food. It's going to be an exciting time for the whole community to come in and spend time taking a look at the beautiful building. It's coming along so well.
Ruby, thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Caught you off guard.
It's okay. Nope. I'm sure there are some things that I may have left out, but we're working on all of those.
Yep.
Where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
very
Thank
much
you.
so.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. So I thought it'd been a while since you guys heard
Yep.
anything about that, so.
Thank you.
So moving on to recommendations from the superintendent.
I have two recommendations. First, as a member of Reed's Collaborative, the school committee has to appoint someone to the Reed's Board of Directors. Historically, the superintendent has served in that role or on the board. I would be glad to continue my role on the Reed's Board. I would entertain a motion to that extent.
I'll make a motion to appoint Scott Neef as the Carver School Committee's representative on the Reed's Board of Directors.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Scott.
As always, thank you.
All right, thank
All
you.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
And then we just have one field trip. The culinary team as part of their regional competition. So this is for the Nationals in Providence. So we're just looking for approval for them to attend that event at the end of April. And it needs to be approved because it's an out-of-state field trip.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the field trip for the culinary competition.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Questions?
Best of luck.
Best of luck.
Absolutely.
Go away. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
And we also have them on the agenda for May to come in and do recognitions, and we'll find out how they've done at their both the regional and the national competition.
I'm gonna bring samples.
Yes.
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks incredible.
Well, if you went to the groundbreaking, they did a fantastic job there too, so
Yes, they did.
I'm sure Chef is involved in both the closing and opening of where we're going, so should be nice. So moving on to reports from the school committee. You wanna lead this out?
Well, I'll lead it out in terms of,
Start it out?
also, the report is on the superintendent's evaluation. So, the superintendent or myself is evaluated on 4 standards: instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. Each standard has several indicators. we will, tonight, the goal will be go through each of those indicators, and the committee has to give a rating on each of the indicators. You also have to rate me on my goals that I established. I established 3 goals at the beginning of the year. As a point of clarification, the form says a professional practice goal, a student learning goal, a district improvement goal. Having a student learning goal is not a requirement, and actually the NISIP process, the new superintendent's induction program that I'm involved in, actually recommends a professional practice goal and 2 district improvement goals. My professional practice goal and my district improvement goal comes directly from their recommendations from NISIP. And then the 3rd district improvement goal was one that I had developed, and these were approved by the school committee in September. So I know that there was some question about student learning goal versus professional practice. So there's 3 goals that you have to look at and give a rating on, and then each indicator for the 4 standards of instructional leadership, management, operations, family and community engagement, professional culture. I think process-wise, what's happened in the past is each member's kind of voted their rating on each standard. Anne Marie will keep a tally as we go along, and then at the end, that goes back to the chair and the vice chair to finalize the rating. So if there was a rating where the vote was 2-2, the chair and the vice chair would go back and make a final decision on where that rating actually was to go.
So those first 2 pages are basically what Andrew and I would sit with to whoever the chair, vice chair is, to sit with and fill out those first 2 pages to give summatives of what everybody's thoughts were.
Yep.
And then we write a summative statement at the end and the evaluator comments if needed. And those are what we sign and turn on.
Correct. And I have if it would be helpful to you to go through, I have a blank copy.
Thanks,
Yeah. And then I guess I'll turn it back to you.
So we'd be starting on the 3rd page actually, which would be professional practice. And so what we'll do is each member will, so if you're looking under the first 2 pages are the end of cycle summative.
Yep.
Okay? So then that
3rd
very
page
next
is
page.
Superintendent's performance goals.
Yes.
Yep.
So this is what we're looking at, where each indicator, everybody has to have a vote for each indicator. So you're welcome to put any comments or explanations in. Scott has given his evidence folders out, as well as the survey that was sent out. So if any questions for him as we're going through this, I would say this is the time to ask. Okay? So starting on the first goal, Scott, is there anything, I honestly don't remember, was there something that, like we've read the top part of it, or do you just want to go through them as number 1 because you're tallying as we go through?
I think you can just read
that top, right?
Right.
So in order to develop skills in strategy development, data analysis, and instructional leadership, I will complete the 2nd year of the new superintendent induction program as measured by continued development and implementation of the educational blueprint by May of 2018. So,
Would you like to go this way? How would you like to go?
it doesn't matter. We can start over there. Start with Stephanie if you're ready.
Okay, you just want me to say what rating I gave him?
So, yep.
I said met.
Met.
Matt?
The second would be in order to ensure that meaningful progress is made on critical district and school goals, I will work with principals and other district leaders through the educator evaluation process. And everybody's seen, so
Met.
Met. In order to ensure an effective transition, and please, again, before I continue, if you have any questions, definitely ask. If you'd like to ask them before you give your final vote. In order to ensure an effective transition into the new elementary school, I will work with the school building committee, project team, and school administration to ensure a timely completion of the building project and the development of procedures and processes for transitioning students and staff into the new building as measured by successful opening of school in August of 2018.
one, I'm only hesitating a little bit because it's, opening in August. I mean, I'm sure everything's gonna go as planned.
It's just the reality of the cycle.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah,
the-
exactly. So I know that Scott has gone above and beyond, and you have been so involved and so transparent and so informative, and putting so much information out there into the community. So although I know the school isn't officially open yet, I felt that you exceeded on this.
I was very close to doing the same type of thing with Exceeded, because with the circumstances, really pretty impressed. I went with Met, because currently we're still in the stages, but that was mine.
Well, I would say, I looked at this as a process, so I mean, we can't really judge him on what we haven't gotten to yet, or evaluate him on what we haven't gotten to yet. But I do know his involvement and where we've been, and I also know that this building project it's gone pretty well through the whole time, but there's been a smooth transition as of late with the way things have been done, and I'll attribute that to a lot of what Scott has done and the work that he's doing, so I went with Exceeded.
I went with Met.
So moving on to the second. The superintendent's performance for instructional leadership. 1A is ensures that all instructional staff design effective and rigorous standards-based units of instruction consisting of well-constructed lessons with measurable outcomes.
Proficient.
I will also be proficient. I just wanted to make one statement. I want to thank the people that did. Well, first off, thank you for listening to us with the surveys. They were extremely helpful, and I want to thank the people taking their times to work on these surveys, because I personally have used them to help me going forward from this point on. So I just want to thank you for your time in doing it. On that one, I am proficient.
I chose proficient. I think this is such an ongoing process. It's hard to really exceed here. It's constantly transitional, so I would go with proficient.
And I too, proficient.
Moving to 1B, instruction ensures that practices in all settings reflect high expectations regarding content and quality of effort and work, engage all students, and are personalized to accommodate diverse learning styles, needs, interests, and levels of readiness.
Proficient.
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 1C is assessment, ensures that all principals and administrators facilitate practices that propel personnel to use a variety of formal and informal methods and assessments to measure student learning, growth, and understanding, and make necessary adjustments to their practice when students are not learning.
Proficient.
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 1D, evaluation ensures effective and timely supervision and evaluation of all staff in alignment with state regulations and contract provisions.
Proficient.
Proficient.
Excuse me.
Proficient.
Proficient.
And data-informed decision-making uses multiple sources of evidence related to student learning, including state, district, and school assessment results and growth data to inform school and district goals and improve organizational performance, educator effectiveness, and student learning.
Proficient.
Proficient.
I'm actually going with exceeding here, and I know that's different than the trend I've been, but I'd like to say my reasoning for that. I think that's because in communicating with Scott a lot, I think he really exceeds in trying to, I think the process of the other ones that we've chosen are a process. But I think it's his decision-making in what to use and how to move forward in this one here that would make me choose exceeding.
Proficient for me.
So moving on to the next.
Is Anne Marie good?
I'm sorry?
Is she good? Anne Marie
Are
good?
you with us?
I am.
Good.
Oh, I'm sorry, yep.
No, I just want to check in, make sure.
for us. What are you talking about?
I wanna
Like,
make
you
sure.
guys gonna hurry up or what?
Well, if we didn't talk to her in a half hour and all of a sudden she was off, we would have been in trouble.
I'm on
So
to
I just wanted
it.
to- just wanted to make sure.
I'm not where we went.
Thank you for checking for someone.
Develops and executes effective plans, procedures, routines, and operational systems to address a full range of safety, health, emotional, and social needs.
Proficient.
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 I actually went with exemplary here. With all the plans and processes you've I've seen you put into place and take an interest in and take leadership on. I was actually very impressed with, by looking at all the evidence in front of me. You know, it's like, you kind of forget about how many you've been involved in. So I went with exemplary.
On 2B, implements a cohesive approach to recruiting, hiring, induction, development, and career growth that promotes high quality and effective practice.
Proficient.
Proficient.
I have proficient here.
Proficient.
Scheduling and management information systems uses systems to ensure optimal use of data and time for teaching, learning, and collaboration, minimizing disruptions and distractions for school-level staff.
Proficient.
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 Law, ethics, and policies understands and complies with state and federal laws and mandates, school committee policies, collective bargaining agreements, and ethical guidelines.
Proficient.
Proficient.
Again, I think this is so transitional, it's hard not to, proficient.
Proficient.
Fiscal systems, develops a budget that supports the district's vision, mission, and goals, allocates and manages expenditures consistent with district and school level goals and available resources.
Proficient.
Proficient.
Exceeding,
Exemplary for me as well.
so we are moving a couple pages to 3A, which is on the very bottom of the page. Engagement. Family and community engagement. The first one is actively ensures that all families are welcome members of the classroom and school community and can contribute to the effectiveness of the classroom, school, district, and community.
Proficient.
I believe this is a strength of yours, Scott. I have this down as exemplary.
I do also, exemplary.
Proficient.
Sharing responsibility, continuously collaborates with families and community stakeholders to support student learning and development at home, school, and in the community.
Proficient.
Proficient.
Scott, I think this district is very lucky to have you on the exemplary here.
Proficient for me.
I would say in speaking with not just the town, but the chief and a bunch of other people who, the more collaborative work you have, the better things go, and I hear nothing but good things from that, so.
Well, thank you.
Moving on to C, communication, engages in regular two-way cultural proficient communication with families and community stakeholders about student learning and performance.
Proficient.
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 And D, family concerns, addresses family and community concerns in an equitable, effective, and efficient manner.
Proficient.
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 Moving on to professional culture, a commitment to high standards. Fosters a shared commitment to high standards of service, teaching, and learning with high expectations for achievement of all.
Proficient.
I have proficient.
I will go exemplary because I believe, Scott, that whether all those goals that you set are achieved or not, I don't know how you do it.
Thank you.
Proficient.
You spend a lot of time in this community,
Yeah.
on the clock and off. If there is such a thing for you. Cultural, I'm sorry, Andy, did you get it?
I did.
You all set?
Yeah.
Okay. Cultural proficiency. Ensures that policies and practices enable staff members and students to interact effectively in a culturally diverse environment in which students' backgrounds, identities, strengths, and challenges are respected.
Proficient.
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 Communication demonstrates strong interpersonal written and verbal communication skills.
I put exemplary.
I also have exemplary.
I also have exemplary.
I have proficient. Sorry.
It's okay.
There's nothing wrong with being proficient, Andy, without a doubt. There's actually nothing wrong with needing improvement either. Gives you a place to grow. Continuous learning develops and nurtures a culture in which staff members are reflective about their practice and use student data, current research, best practices, and theory to continuously adapt practice and achieve improved results. Model these behaviors in his or her own practice.
Proficient.
I put needs improvement, and why I did, I hope I'm trying to categorize things correctly, and all of these from the surveys do not line up perfect. So I was just working off of making sure that articulate expectations regarding the performance of others, acknowledges achievement and accomplishment of others. These were just some things noted. I wanted to make sure that those people were heard that took the time, so I just was thinking that could be something you could work on. And this is something we discussed. So if I couldn't find the exact category to line the things up with, this is my best shot. Certainly something we've discussed.
So Andy, I think you'll slightly change me a little bit because I'll agree with you and go with needs improvement there, not because I mean, when I think of what you do and all that you do, it's hard to really say that, but I think to reflect Andy's sentiment, if I were to look for an area that I would want to see more focus and improvement, it might be that area. Not necessarily that I don't think you're not doing that, but I think just to sort of, you know what, Emery, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to say with proficient. I apologize.
You're going to
for
proficient?
fluctuating. I do, because I don't think it needs to be reflected that way. I think our conversations and your dedication to what you're doing will lead to that anyway.
Proficient for me as well.
Sorry for the confusion. Shared vision. Successfully and continuously engages all stakeholders in a creation of a shared educational vision in which every student is prepared to succeed in post-secondary education and become a responsible citizen and global contributor.
Proficient.
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 Managing conflict employs strategies for responding to disagreement and dissent, constructively resolving conflict and building consensus throughout a district or school community.
Proficient.
Proficient.
Proficient. James, can I go back and actually change a vote?
I will, whatever you need to do, Andy.
Would you
Let
mind?
me know. Where are you at?
I'm looking at section 3 dash A.
3A. That's the one at the bottom there, yeah?
Yeah.
Engagement.
Yes.
Actively ensures
Yes.
that all families are welcome members of the classroom and school community and can contribute to the effectiveness of the classroom, school district, and community.
Yes, this is one I'd like to change to exemplary. Now that I look at it more closely, sorry about that.
No worries. Any other comments, questions, changes?
You thought it was going to be the 3-to-1 one, didn't you?
No?
No, I guess I just want to quickly elaborate a little bit.
Sure.
I have spoken with Scott about it. Finding things that line up perfectly are sometimes hard, but I want to make sure the voices were heard. And for me, the biggest thing that I've had, which I've had none. So I want to say I've had little to no reason to ever be like, hey, there's an issue. The only thing I've ever seen is you could give the ability for your administrators to maybe have the opportunity to succeed or fail on their own a little bit, which is a hard thing to do, to be able to, you do so much. And I just would say, maybe giving them a little bit more of an opportunity that you're not the person in front of them at all times could be a great thing for them. That's all. That would just be something. Other than that, like I said, I couldn't speak more highly of you. So
Thank you.
So also to that point, Andy or Stephanie, anything you would like to add? We sort of have to sum up all that we've done with the scores and all that, but we also have to make some statements. So if you had anything you'd like to add or say, or something that we might reflect when we write the final statement. Anything you'd like to see or?
Right ahead.
Well, I just kind of wrote some thoughts down just to go with this, just I can add it with it, but
Yeah,
You
please.
can certainly turn those over to,
Yeah,
give that
please
to Anne Marie.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, just a short statement is Administrator Neef has either met or will shortly meet all prior goals given to him by the Carver School Committee. In my overall evaluation of Administrator Neef's performance for his last year, he has scored on cumulative rating of proficient in fulfilling not only the Carver School Committee's prior year's goals set out for him, but also the standards and indicators of effective administrative leadership as laid out by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Although scoring proficient overall, Administrator Neef did score exemplary with me. I did put 2, but now it's 3 sections of Standard 2, Management and Operations, and I just list the examples here. But I just want to say I really appreciate the job you've done for the town in your first few years here and trying to tackle everything, and the transparency and the communication you bring to the position.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I echo both of your sentiments. Scott's always available. He's always around, which is great for our community. I mean, I know that there are not many other districts where the superintendent is so in touch with the students and in the buildings as often as you are. I appreciate that. My kids appreciate that. So thank you for that. Thank you for always putting yourself out there and advocating in the murky waters that you have to advocate in, and not, backing down from that. I appreciate it. Not everyone's willing to do that, and you do. And it's noticed, and it's appreciated. I don't know if you hear that, but it is appreciated. And I look forward to more of what you're going to bring, because I know that you have great ideas and that you're motivated and that you want to improve and you want to give others in the district opportunities to grow and to improve. So I think it's very exciting, and we're very lucky to have you. So thank you.
So, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I think, as I say every year with these, it's kind of hard to evaluate a lot of these because they're very transitional. They're constantly in movement and changing. I think we're a very lucky town to have someone who cares. There are a lot of towns and districts out there that superintendents are there for 3 years and move on, or they go through 5 to 10 superintendents every couple of years. And that happens a lot. And I think regardless of where growth needs to be, I think you're the hardest on yourself more than anybody. So I know that you're looking at that, and I think ultimately the thing that makes it all okay for me is that the most evident exemplary thing that I could say is that it is very clear how much you care about this community and how much you want this community to succeed, regardless of whether your name is part of it or not. Your end goal is the success of these schools and of the Carver school system. So I think we're very lucky to have you.
Well, then, if I can just say a couple words. Thank you to everybody. Thank you for all of your kind words. And I do take a lot of pride in the school district, and I take a lot of pride in this community. And people hear me say that all the time, but it's really true. There's no other place I'd rather be, and I can't wait to see. Hopefully, my goal is to be here for the next 10 years, and or maybe beyond that, and see where the district gets to go and grow. Looking at myself, I think that right now, especially, there's a lot of things going on in the district with the building projects and the possibility of a new athletic field, and there's a lot of things that are clearly related to education, but they're not all directly related to classroom instruction. So I'm always trying to check myself on, am I doing enough in terms of ensuring that I'm focusing on improving teaching and learning for all students within our schools, because ultimately that's the most important job. And sometimes these other things are important, but they're a lot. And so I'm always kind of checking myself, and I feel like I could do a better job of making sure that I'm always focused on teaching and learning as the superintendent, as the educational leader of the district. I also think that communication can always be better. And I've tried this year to have a focus on communicating more with the community. I've been trying to work on putting more stuff out on Twitter. Each building's developed a Facebook page, so trying to use social media more. But I could do better at that. As my son often tells me, he compares me, he sees what other superintendents do on Twitter, and he makes comparisons for me about that I need to improve my performance in that area. And that's obviously that's somewhat anecdotal. But the concept of, I do feel like we're in a communication age, and people expect to be communicated with on a regular basis, and it's my expectation of myself, and I think I focus on that to try to do better at that, but I think that's something that can always be better. And then I agree in terms of that concept of recognizing others and their accomplishments. I think that's always been a bit of a blind spot for me. It's something that I have to think about in terms of making sure that I'm always recognizing the tremendous amount of hard work that's going on throughout the district. And then also maybe, Andrew, as you said, looking to provide some more autonomy to some of the people that I'm working with to make sure give them that same opportunity to grow. So when I reflect and look at this document, those are kind of the areas that I identify for my own self-improvement. But overall, again, thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to serve at the will of the Carver School Committee and the community of Carver.
Thank you, Scott.
So, go ahead.
No, I just have one comment on your statement. Your son is trolling other superintendents.
Particularly his own superintendent of the Taunton Public Schools, but he does look at other superintendents as well and their communication level on Twitter.
Probably hard not to.
Just to add to the end of that, Scott and I discussed earlier about, we did a little, we met during the summer a few years ago to start look at plans and procedures and policies, and the talk was to maybe set something up this summer where we could address some of these things that need to be and look at some things. The evaluation process is a big thing right now that's sort of in a mix as to how it will roll out. There are policies and procedures that we've discussed aren't necessarily as up to date and evident as they need to be as far as being online and accessible to everyone. So I think maybe setting up some time this summer to start looking at some of those ideas might be something we might want to try and do. What did we call it?
A mini retreat. It's a school committee retreat, maybe a half day.
Straight down the road.
Yeah, you know, retreat
Not
down.
really going anywhere.
Retreat might be the wrong word.
Yeah.
Get together. We had done it not last summer, but 2 summers ago. We had actually
It
done.
was actually guided, right?
Yeah, we actually had. It was one of the recommendations of the new superintendent's induction program that we used a person named Dorothy Presser, who actually does training with school committees all the time, and she came in and led us through. I believe we did 3 4-hour sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And that was guided in terms of establishing protocols, and the protocol document that we have that we've looked at the last couple of months actually came out of those meetings. And I mean, James and I have talked about not necessarily bringing back Dorothy back or an outside consultant back, but us sitting down for, you know, either 1 or 2 sessions over the summer that would just be focused on that kind of work in terms of how we operate together as a group and looking at policies and some procedures might be a beneficial thing.
I think what I'd like to see is a really set agenda so that when we go there, we have specific goals that aren't outreaching, but we know we can accomplish in that time that we have. So we don't sort of outreach where we want to go with it and make it wasted time, make it more productive to what we know we can complete and finish in that time that we establish.
Okay.
So maybe if we think about that and then at our next meeting.
May look at some dates that we could do.
Come up with some dates and an agenda as far as what we'd like to see as the major topics. And I mean, unless somebody has a contrary idea, I don't really think it's necessary to bring somebody in to help us organize that when we kind of know the focus of what we really want to do.
It was good to have her there because she kind of led the meeting, kind of kept us on track and, you know, kind of told us what other committees were doing and other ideas and ways of thinking of things that we didn't think of at the time, you know what I mean? So that was good, but I agree with you about the cost.
Well, again, I think that'll come down to what we set as an agenda and what we'd like to accomplish in that time that we choose, what we feel would be most effective in that time that we choose. So maybe we can get that on the calendar then for the next meeting.
Yeah, and look at some, and then we can pick some dates and look
and
what,
set an
yeah,
agenda.
everybody can kind of look at their calendars and see what they're doing for vacations over the summer. I'm sure we can come up with a day or two to meet for 3 or 4 hours.
Scott, do you still have the framework from those meetings?
I do.
Maybe we could use those as a kind of a guide.
Yeah, there was actually, she does a whole series of programs, and I think there was a total of, there was about 6 modules in essence, and she had done a few of them with us. So I could look at what some of those other modules were. I'm sure I can access that and pull that out. And
we don't have to do exactly the same, but
it gives a framework.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I would add beyond that is that our annual town meeting is Tuesday, April 24th. It is a 6:30 start time, and hope to see as many people there as possibly can. It is a very important night, and it's the time to put your voice and your vote into what matters. and hopefully the turnout will be worth it. Somebody mentioned something, I kind of like the idea, but was it you, Andy, that talked about where some towns, they do a lottery of the warrants, where they put the warrants in, so it's not established prior to the meeting, because what happens a lot of times is people come in, they vote for what they want, and then they leave, whereas when you have a lottery of the warrants, it's sort of drawn randomly, so you don't really know when your article is going to come up.
I don't think it was me, but I remember that conversation.
Yeah.
So maybe, was it you?
Was it?
Could have been me.
I think it was
I just remember having that conversation. It just sounds like I like that idea, because I hate to sit at those meetings and watch the auditorium
Shrink.
empty when we're in the middle of a lot of still important things to go. So hope to see everybody there on the 24th. Other than that, does anyone have anything to add before we close for executive session?
No, I'll make a motion to move to executive session to discuss negotiations with all units and to not return.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. That is a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 That is unanimous. Meeting is
Thank you, everybody.
adjourned. Thank you.